The National Environment Management Authority of Uganda, NEMA, is a principal government agency responsible for the monitoring, coordinating, supervising and regulating the natural environment and the environment policy of Uganda. The agency advises the government of Uganda and spearheads the development of environmental policies, regulations, laws, guidelines and standards. NEMA reviews environment and social impact studies before granting approval or rejecting projects that may have an impact on the environment. In our EcoPlus program today, we bring you the Executive Director of National Environment Management Authority NEMA, Dr. AKANKWASA BARIREGA, to enlighten us on the agency's achievements in 2024, wetland usage, challenges, and way forward in strengthening NEMA's goals.
Key accomplishments that NEMA has been able to undertake in the last 1 year. On the policy and legislation reforms angle, we've been able to develop standards for air quality management in Uganda. This is the first time the country has developed air quality standards. We've been using borrowed standards. So for the first time, we now have air quality regulations and standards for Uganda. So going forward, we shall go into implementation to ensure that Ugandans are guaranteed their right to a safe, clean, and healthy environment. We've also, on the legislation front, formulated chemicals regulations for Uganda. We have a big problem of chemicals pollution. Chemicals go into our water systems, chemicals go into the food we eat, chemicals go into our soils, chemicals go into the air we breathe. So to manage chemicals related pollution, we've come up with regulations to manage chemicals pollution, especially industrial chemicals. We've also developed environment protection force regulations, which is operationalizing Section 25 that ensures that NEMA should have an enforcement outfit. Previously, we did not have an in-house enforcement mechanism, and yet the law requires us to do so. So we've formulated and the government approved and we gazetted environment protection force regulations for Uganda. And now we shall embark on recruitment, training, and equipping and deployment of environment protection force, which will work with the police and the army to ensure that environmental laws are enforced. We've also come up with administrative penalty schemes. You have heard about fines. When you offend environment laws, the law allows us to either fine you or prosecute you, depending on the situation. And so through fines, we've been able to raise about 8 billion from fines, which has gone to National Environment Fund, and that money will be used to restore the environment. The National Environment Fund is established by an Act of Parliament. It's under Section 33 of National Environment Act, and funds from that fund can only be used for restoration of environment. It can't be used for allowances or administrative costs. So we believe that next financial year, we should be able to issue the first call for proposals to benefit from National Environment Fund. We are excited about this, and we look forward to sustaining it as a sustainable way of financing environment restoration through the polluter pay principle. He who pollutes must pay for the cleanup. So we have moved this from theory into practice, and I can gladly tell Ugandans that we have about 80 billion already in the National Environment Fund, which we shall start disbursing next year.
Dr. BARIREGA explained the offences fined by NEMA.
Wetland degradation, noise pollution, chemicals pollution, industrial discharges. When we find you operating below standards, for example, in Uganda, noise has standards. So if we find you are making noise above the standards, it's a criminal offense. So you choose whether you want to be prosecuted or whether you want to pay a fine and stop doing the illegal activity. The same applies to wetland degradation. When we find you encroaching on a wetland, it's a criminal offense. So we can choose to prosecute you or we choose to fine you depending on the gravity of the offense. Some people, for example, the trucks, these people who drive trucks, they are hired to take soil and stones into a wetland. Sometimes they are hired innocently without knowing that they are being hired to commit an offense. But of course, ignorance of the law is no offense, is no defense. And so if we find a truck pouring soil into a wetland, they have also committed the offense themselves. And so we fine these. We fine these in addition to requiring the offenders to restore the place which has been damaged. We also place fines on them. And these fines are voluntary. If you don't want a fine, we process your file and we take you to court. Court can also convict you or fine you.
The offences are charged administratively depending on the inspections and investigations done.
It depends on the gravity of the offense, so there is no fixed price. These are called administrative fines. The administrative fines are based on the inspection and investigation. So the gravity of the offense determines the penalty they give you. For example, the Chinese who were arrested in Ruera doing illegal sand mining, courts fined them I think about 200 million, I need to check. There was also other investors who were found degrading in Mukono, along Ginger Road in Mukono. They were fined about 200 million. So it depends, it's not a fixed thing. But we are coming up with express penalty scheme for simple offenses where the penalty is going to be fixed and known. For example, if we find you throwing garbage from a car, littering, we should be able to slap a fine on you which is known. So we are working with Solicitor General, Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs to come up with an express penalty scheme like the one of traffic. So currently we are implementing administrative fine scheme which is based on investigation. You investigate, so the fine depends on what the gravity of your offense. If we find a truck, for example, being used to degrade a wetland, you must be fined not less than 5 million for each sino truck. Yeah? And the one who is degrading, the real degrader now, the investor in the courts, those ones we fine them heavier fines depending on the gravity. We've had fines here of people who have failed to conduct environment audits. So we've fined as big fines as 300, 400, 500 million, depending on the gravity and the scope of the offense.
Among the other achievements include policy and regulations in the environment sector, guiding developments and increased inspections, among others.
If we go no prosecution, we've been able to institute 112 criminal cases in the period against environmental offenders. 112 criminal cases have been instituted in respective courts of law across the country for environment offenses. So if you or caught outside the ambit of the law in relation to degradation of environment, we definitely come and ensure that the law is enforced against you. Most of these offenses relate to encroachment on wetlands, discharge of effluent waste by industries, air pollution by industries, noise pollution, and other offenses. Yeah. Illegal waste dumping, illegal sand mining, and developing without environment and social impact assessment, failure to conduct environment audit, which is supposed to be conducted annually. So those are some of the offenses that we've prosecuted. Our other work is to ensure that we guide development through what we call environment and social impact assessment. And in the period under review, we received 4,762 applications for environment and social impact assessment, and we were able to review all of these, including the backlog. We were able to review and finalize 5,143 environment and social impact assessment projects. So for the first time, we've been able to process all applications received in that year and go beyond to even address the backlog. So this is a key issue for us. One, it generates resources for government, but also guides sustainable development. NEMA, as part of ensuring that Ugandans enjoy a right to clean and healthy environment, conducted 1,934 inspections. 1,934 inspections. Inspections are conducted to prevent pollution. Inspections are also conducted to respond to complaints received. Somebody has complained that there is noise disturbing them. Somebody has complained that there is a factory that is polluting the air. Somebody has complained that there is an encroachment going on a wetland. So 1,934 inspections were conducted, and this resulted into some of the criminal cases I earlier told you, plus fines that I talked about. Of course, we've done operations in central Uganda, particularly Rubigi and Nabisasiro wetland, which you are aware of. Also along the banks of the Kabaka's Lake, we've undertaken operations there. These operations were aimed at removing encroachment.
Many people have fallen victims of NEMA due to encroachment on gazetted wetlands. Dr. BARIREGA, the Executive Director of NEMA, highlights the activities allowed to be done in wetland areas.
The law lists activities that can be undertaken with permission in wetlands. These activities include tourism, for example, birding. These activities include waste treatment of effluent waste. These activities include transport infrastructure, roads, railway lines, telecommunication lines. These activities also include subsistence agriculture of not more than a third of the acreage of the wetland. Bricklaying is also allowed with permission, with the license. So these activities are listed in the Schedule to National Environment Act, and they are specified there. But because our wetlands have been reducing, we've lost wetland cover from 15.7% to now only 9.3%. So because of the need to protect our wetland cover, we've suspended issuing licenses for certain activities. For For example, sand mining is allowed under law, but we have suspended to allow wetlands to regenerate. We believe that the wetlands we are remaining with, we should jealously protect them because of too much illegal encroachments that are going on, backfilling. You've seen flooding when it rains, just a drizzle, Kampala floods, because most of the wetlands were filled and buildings put there. A true friend will tell the other friend to leave the wetland peacefully. If somebody tells you stay there, government is harassing you, that's not your friend. There are still very many people staying in wetlands, as you know, in Kampala here especially. Actually, the problem is mainly in Kampala, urban areas. In rural areas, the biggest problem we have is encroachment of agriculture. But that one is easy to stop. Once you remove the people, the wetland will regenerate. The problem in urban areas is complete conversion, backfilling with concrete and cement and converting them into paved environment. So that's the biggest thing which we must fight. So this argument that you see NEMA is only running after the poor, that's blackmail meant to divert us. And we are not going to be diverted through blackmail, not at all. So we continue to raise awareness as well. We've done lots of sensitizations through schools, through political leaders. All these sensitizations will continue so that Ugandans don't have any excuse that we didn't know. We have mainstreamed environment management into national curricula for primary, for secondary, and for tertiary education, and we work very closely with the National Curriculum Development Center, with the Ministry of Education and the district local governments. We also continue to build the capacity of NEMA through recruitment of more staff, acquiring more equipment, and also advocating for enhanced resourcing, because without resources we cannot operate. And we thank government which has incrementally been strengthening our capacity. When I came here 2.5 years ago, NEMA had only 100 staff, as you know, just 100. As I speak now, we have, in the last 2 years, been able to move from 100 to 250, and we are still counting.
Much as National Environment Management Authority NEMA has achieved much in the year 2024 compared to other years, there are a few challenges that hinder the progress of the agency.
Our biggest challenges is really capacity. You know, NEMA is supposed to regulate, coordinate, monitor, and supervise. Day-to-day management of environment is supposed to be done by lead agencies. Lead agencies here, I mean Uganda Wildlife Authority for wildlife, National Forest Authority for forestry, district local government for wetlands, for hill areas, for water sources, for waste management, for sound, noise, pollution. But because the district local governments and the urban authorities have limited capacity, day-to-day management of environment is challenged. And once this is challenged, NEMA cannot succeed, because we can only succeed when we all succeed together. So we need enhanced staffing in local governments and enhanced budget support to local governments. We need equipment to local government. At least there should be a motorcycle or a car in each district dedicated for environment work. We haven't achieved this, and we continue to push and call upon the government and our development partners to work towards strengthening environment implementation at the city and the district local government level. Of course, politicization here and there. Quite often we see politicians interfering with our work for political gain. You've seen, for example, areas around Rubiji where political elements want to come and incite the people not to leave wetlands for their own capital gain. We believe this is immoral and it is not right. A good leader should be able to tell the people the truth, irrespective of how hurting it will be. But that is the truth. If I deceive you that being in a wetland is okay, and then you get a disease and die there, or you get flooding sweeping you, you lose your life and property. For me, I am just looking for a vote. I think that's not being fair to the people.
Despite the challenges encountered in the year 2024, NEMA hopes to continue supporting local governments in managing the environment, capacity building, dealing with encroachers, among other future developments.
Our plans for the future, we shall continue addressing capacity issues because that's the binding constraints. We shall continue to support local governments. I've told you for the first time in the history of this institution, we are going to announce, to call for proposals to get money from National Environment Fund. So that will address the issue of capacity. It will help to restore environment. We shall also continue undertaking restoration operations next year. We are not going to relent. Those who are still in wetlands, please take advantage of the amnesty that was granted by His Excellency the President to live peacefully. Those who live peacefully, nobody will prosecute them. The President gave them amnesty. If you live peacefully, nobody will prosecute you. But if you insist and want to fight against the law, then the law catches up with you.
Dr. BARIREGA advises the public, especially those living in sensitive ecosystems, to vacate them during this rainy season to prevent impacts that may result from climate change.
As you have heard from Meteorology Department, we are likely to experience more rains than expected. So my clarion call to all people who are living in sensitive ecosystems, they should be cautious and take immediate measures to vacate where practical. For example, people living on steep slopes, with this increased precipitation, we are likely to see more slides. So people who are living on steep slopes, it is a good idea that they leave, they vacate. And then you can continue using the steep areas for sustainable agriculture and land use management. For example, mixed cropping, terracing, that can speed the slow of water speed, can slow down the water speed, and so you can actually use slopes which are not so steep for agriculture if you manage it properly. But staying there is not advisable at all. People who have occupied river banks and lake shores, especially illegally, those ones should vacate because water will catch up with you. I wish all Ugandans a prosperous and a blissful festive season. Please enjoy as you are protecting the environment.